I may play the fool at times, but I'm a little more than just a pretty blonde girl with an ass that won't quit.
Tall, blonde, bubbly, and a little crazy. It's impossible to ignore the attitude and the outfits of Phoebe Buffay. She doesn't want to be a career woman like Rachel or have a traditional family like Monica. And somehow she found a way to be happy by the end of the show. Let's face it, Phoebe's life is everything but traditional. And having a tragic backstory sort of makes sense of her adult behavior, but it doesn't completely explain why she has turned out the way she did. As someone who had such a traumatic childhood, you might expect someone who has gone through a darker route. Phoebe lived through poverty, neglect, and seeing things no child would have to see, and still she reached her adulthood becoming a completely different person than what we expected. Quirky, charming, eccentric, and bubbly, Phoebe is not the kind of person you expect by learning about her family background or her friend group, and that makes her sort of special, as well as kind of a puzzling person to categorize, because after watching the 10 seasons of Friends, some people may wonder, what made Phoebe Phoebe? It's also very notable that she's very different from her friends, and that will make the audience wonder why is she in that friend group.
Well, okay, I wasn't rich like you guys, okay? I didn't eat gold and have a flying pony.
There are so many potential points of disconnection with her that it makes you wonder why such an odd character became so loved by her friend group and by the public. Today we're going to talk about Phoebe Buffay from Friends, and we're going to discover what turned her into one of the most beloved characters in TV in recent years and learn what she can teach us about turning a painful past into a joyful present and a hopeful future. Our first encounter with Phoebe in the first episode of the show is her trying to cleanse Ross's aura, mentioning that she dated a man that ate chalk, and singing a song to Rachel to help her calm down.
I'm all better now. I helped.
These actions show the part she plays in the group. However, this only shows a small portion of the impact she would end up having later. Phoebe is not only a zany comedic relief type of character, even though she was initially conceived that way by the Friends writers. One of the most notable things about Phoebe's story is the dire situation in which she grew up. She quite frequently mentions how her mother has taken her own life as the beginning of a lot of her setbacks in life. But to be fair, it's not like her life was a bed of roses before that. Seth's mother was also a dealer, but she also had a stepfather who went to jail and a sister she, most likely, never had a good relationship with. Besides the evidence, stability, and money problems she grew up with, Phoebe also seemed to have been raised with a warped sense of who she is, where she comes from, and life in general. This is evidenced by the fact that her mother lied to her about many things like who her father was, who her real mother was, and even to seemingly insignificant things like changing the endings of sad movies to shield her from the harshness of life, which is kind of ironic knowing what Phoebe would have to face after.
I think I can figure it out. I guess, I was born, and then everyone started lying their asses off.
After their mother died and they found themselves having nowhere to go, Ursula and Phoebe apparently parted ways and Phoebe began living in the street. Not much is known about the grandma she ended up living with in her 20s around this time, but it's safe to say she wasn't around at the time she was still a child. While living in the street, she ended up having contact with a lot of very different people that have given her a sense of family and community at a time where she couldn't rely on her own. At best, these people were odd, and at worst, they could even be dangerous. These situations made her develop some teeth and teach her how to protect herself in a world that seemed to have forgotten about her. This at times is both admired and judged by her friends who find her story as admirable as it is sad.
You're pretty good at this.
Yeah, well, I had to learn. I was staying at the Y, and some of the young men weren't acting Christian enough.
She speaks about her learning how to mock people with the same ease as she speaks how she learned to speak French in the streets, and she does the same with pretty much every experience she had. And to not make a boring list, here's a compilation of the incredibly unsettling past of Phoebe Buffay, followed by a laugh track for some reason.
I looked at your rec and done some pretty weird stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk at dinner.
Okay.
I didn't go to high school, but 3 of us would meet behind a dumpster to learn French. Bonjour. I was 14. My mom had just killed herself, and my stepdad was back in prison. And someday I'll tell you about the time I stabbed the cop.
Phoebe?
What? He stabbed me first! This reminds me of the time when I was living on the street, and this guy offered to buy me food if I slept with him. I got hepatitis, because this pimp spit in my mouth, and my dad had run off, and I was living in a gremlin with a guy named Cindy who talked to his hand. I had a hard life. My mother was killed by a drug dealer.
Your mother killed herself.
She was a drug dealer.
Jesus, Friends is a lot darker than I remember. Phoebe became friends with the group through living with Monica after she moved to the city. From the flashback episode in season 3, we learned that Phoebe lived with her for 2 years before she decided to quietly move out from Monica's apartment due to her increasingly anal behavior, and decided to move in with her grandma that apparently is quite anal in other areas of her life, if you know what I mean.
My grandmother has this new boyfriend. And they're both kind of insecure in bed. And deaf. So they're constantly having to reassure each other that they're having a good time. You have no idea how loud they are.
And these are pretty much the experiences that Phoebe has lived up until the show started. One of the most common traits that people can associate with Phoebe is how you never know what to expect from her. Usually, the most out-of-base comments that you will hear in the show, 8 out of 10 times come from her. And this randomness can be endearing for some, but annoying to others, as I have noticed navigating through posts dedicated to Friends, and especially to Phoebe. She could be quite extravagant for a lot of people. She does have different spiritual and general beliefs than the rest of the group, and I would even dare to say that due to her experiences, her moral compass is a bit skewed as well. In the sense that most of the time she tries to do what she believes is right, but also gets seduced by the very things she should be against, and in some cases ends up giving up to them. Speaking of that, Phoebe does have her moments when she's mischievous and does things to have fun at the expense of the rest of her friends, and gets quite a kick out of these situations, as well as the comments she makes at the expense of some of them, particularly Ross and Chandler, to whom she said things that at best can be considered brutally honest, and at worst they're just straight up insults.
Well, can we see him?
Your hair looks too good. I think it would upset her. Ross, why don't you come on in?
Her eccentricities can only be defined as a combination between childlike whimsy and the calculated deviations of a mental patient. But her being random, weird, and slightly mean do come with a softer side that humanizes her a lot more. These qualities could be really helpful in a world that is constantly changing, and these did help her friends at pivotal moments in their lives. Besides of what I already mentioned, Phoebe is also optimistic, funny, caring, and selfless to an extent that a lot of people wouldn't dare to be. And nowhere this is more evident than when she decided to give birth to her brother's triplets. There are also many other small moments that show that Phoebe does her best to protect the group and their feelings. She has mediated at least 2 fights between Rachel and Monica. She pretended to be Ursula to let Joey down easy when he was being ghosted by her. She drove Ross to the airport so he could tell Rachel that he loved her. And she kept Chandler's secret when he was proposing to Monica.
I can't believe you're gonna ask Monica to marry you.
I know.
She's very protective of the people she considers family precisely because she never had a functional family on her own. She's very sweet, fierce, and loving, and does have a more detached and unconventional wise view of life. That is definitely an oddity among her friend group, but she's also astute, clever, and crafty both figuratively and literally. Although she seems to be immature in some areas of her life, she's also shown to give quite mature advice when it's needed. All these qualities may seem confusing and hard to pinpoint on a surface level, but the more you observe her through the series, the more intriguing it becomes. Well, at least for me, a lot of fans seem to really hate her. But in order to try to understand Phoebe a lot better, I think it's a good time to take a look at her deeply. Even though Friends uses Phoebe's past as a quick laugh, unlike Monica's past, as an overweight girl, this is not treated just as occasional stories to make Phoebe sound zany and odd. First of all, and once again, unlike Fat Monica's storylines, the only one who actually uses her story to poke fun at herself or her situation is Phoebe. I assume because of the gruesome nature of it all, and because making fun of overweight people in the 90s was as popular as the heroin chic movement. I bet there's no correlation between those two. Phoebe's past is important for her development as a person, and it's not just a situation that gets relegated to the past, but it's also something that it still haunts her in the present. It becomes a constant for adult Phoebe to try and undo the damage that she was raised with at the same time that she tries to make sense of and make peace with the reality she cannot change. And the way she chooses to deal with her trauma is far from rare. What Phoebe does mainly towards her friends can be categorized as a version of trauma dumping, and there are many reasons why she may resort to this practice as a way to deal with it. According to the article, A Silent Weight, the Cumulative Toll of trauma dumping can happen at the most inconvenient settings with receivers that were completely unaware of the conversation they were going to have. The reasons behind this can go from feeling on her or unattended by her caregivers when she was a child, which, hello, to, in some cases, use this information as leverage to obtain what they need, which is a behavior that can seem quite manipulative, but knowing the type of life she had, it makes sense that she used the resources she had at her disposition to survive. However, despite bringing her past quite constantly and shocking her friends with her outrageous stories, Phoebe doesn't use her past as a way to obtain something important from other people. I mean, yes, she does use her stories to occasionally gain a small argument between friends or to get out of trouble when she has made minor mistakes, but she doesn't do these things out of maliciousness. There's even one episode where she recognizes that she uses her dramatic past as leverage for insignificant things and even apologizes for it.
Oh, I lost my mom to suicide.
Okay, no way. You cannot use that to get the cute guy and the last blueberry muffin.
Did I use that already today? I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's also important to mention that she doesn't use this information to gain sympathy from others or to obtain an important financial or emotional benefit from people. But she does use it as a form of attention seeking that she only brings up in front of the people she trusts the most, which are her friends. I don't recall now, but I haven't seen her using this information against strangers, lovers, or new acquaintances to get something from them. In this case, I would say that she's not using her trauma as a weapon or as something that turns her into a perpetual victim of her circumstances, but as something that was part of her and that she refuses to be completely defined by. Even if a huge part of what makes her who she is was in a way affected by it. Because Phoebe's strange and at times volatile personality can be traced back to complex trauma caused by earlier experiences. Some of the behavior that Phoebe has exhibited that relate to her childhood are emotional dysregulation.
For God's sake, Judy, pick up the sock! Pick up the sock! Pick up the sock! I'm sorry, was that rude?
Commitment issues in romantic relationships.
I'm in my 30s and I've never been in a long-term relationship? Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Dissociation and escapism.
I just have this really strong feeling that this cat is my mother.
Dark humor used as a protective shield.
She's dead.
Are you sure?
Well, if she isn't, cremating her was a big mistake.
Difficulty reading social cues.
Did you just hit my dad?
I'm sorry, I've never met a boyfriend's parents before.
But, I mean, you have met humans before, right?
Despite the previously mentioned situations and their inappropriately hilarious consequences, Phoebe has shown a lot of growth throughout the show and behind scenes. And this is even recognized by her. She has shown herself to be more stable, empathetic, and even more self-possessed than a standard trauma survivor. Instead of running away from her painful past, she confronts it and tries to make amends with it. Instead of making herself small in public settings, she commands the attention of people with her personality and her outfits, and most importantly, instead of shielding herself away from community and society, she does her best she can to build them up and tries to make herself part of the change she wants to see in the world. And this is the most important one because this is what brought her the opportunity to redefine the concept of family for herself. She does have difficulty keeping romantic relationship, but she has been consistent with her friend group for more than 10 years. With a dead mother, an absent father, and a sister that couldn't care less about her, Phoebe didn't have the chance to have a family in the standard sense, but she did have something arguably better. A family that she chose and that loves her back for the beautiful weirdo she is. Since she didn't have a standard family structure, there are a lot of family patterns that Phoebe transferred into their relationship with her friends. She does it with everyone in the group, but where these patterns are most notable are in her relationships with Joey, Monica, and Ross. I would dare to say that with Monica and Ross, Phoebe supplemented the roles of mom and dad. Not consciously, of course, but since they are the ones who decided to already carry those roles themselves, Monica by having a welcoming and nurturing essence combined with a strict behavior, and Ross by being an actual dad and by being the most mature of the guys, it wasn't difficult for her to associate them that way. She finds it hard to stand up for herself with Monica since she's compulsive with her need for order, control, and her competitive tendencies. However, she does translate that behavior to Ross. To Phoebe, Ross is a figure that needs to be defied, and she does small and funny things to test him. Since Ross wants to be a know-it-all all the time, Phoebe finds it funny to mock him and dismiss his authority, and make him lose his cool, which to be honest are my favorite interactions between those two.
Thieves, while we're hovering around the subject, I just have to say that dinosaurs, they don't go rough.
The little ones do.
And then we have her interactions with Joey, which are the complete opposite. With Joey, she's more mellow, more permissive, and sweeter. He's the only one in the group who shares her childlike view of the world combined with some adult naughtiness. They are both sincere, sentimental, and genuinely kind, and this is why she appreciates Joey. He may be dumb, but he's incredibly loyal and will do anything for a friend. They're also closer since they are sort of the outsiders of the group. And this is why she was so scared when Ursula and Joey started dating, because she values not only Joey as a friend, but the entire group for very different reasons. And losing someone in the friend group will be like losing a family member all over again. She values deeply her friends, and she would do what she can to keep them around. Consequently, this is kind of the opposite approach that she has with her romantic relationships. Most of Phoebe's relationships before season 9 were either a series of short-lived flings or had a component that made them really difficult to work. It seems like she subconsciously chose unavailable people as a way to keep herself free. For example, guys who have to leave or who can stay for long. Also falling in love with a gay ice skate dancer who happened not to be gay in the end. And falling not once but twice with her sister's boyfriends or stalkers. Which, to be honest, is a bit creepy, but it makes sense in a psychological sense, keeping in mind the relationship she has with Ursula. By the time she reached her 30s, she realized she hadn't had a serious relationship, and that freaked her out. And this is when she met Mike. Her relationship with Mike is actually pretty sweet, because almost accidentally she found someone who does inspire her and grounds her at the same time. Mike is respectful of her wishes and supports her quirky ideas, like when, for example, Phoebe decided to take care of the rat baby she had on her apartment after accidentally killing their mother. But he's also firm enough to put his foot down when an idea is going to affect her, or both of them. Like in the episode where she changed her name to Princess Consuela Banana Hammock.
Do you even know what a banana hammock is?
It's a funny word.
It's a Speedo.
Oh, crap.
And to be honest, kudos to Mike, because Phoebe inadvertently was calling herself something Borat, whereas on vacation. Also, he never loses his mind with the most ridiculous ideas Phoebe might have. And this demonstrates that even though he might find Phoebe's life and ideas strange and complicated, he loves her enough to accept those behaviors are part of what makes her so special. And even though their relationship developed a little too fast and with not enough attention and care from the writers, I think it's one of the best relationships in the show. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from this, but I think they are even better than Monica and Chandler. And nowhere is this more evident than in their wedding. They didn't need to have the perfect venue and the perfect weather to make it happen. They were spontaneous and genuine with their intentions, and the way everything happened, you know that their relationship is solid and will withstand everything. You can tell that Phoebe really did relax and felt safe with Mike, because she was willing to give in to the white picket fence fantasy. Not only for him, but for herself as well. And the 180 she did in her way of living is actually a victory for Phoebe and her character arc.
Oh my God, load up the Volvo. I want to be a soccer mom.
Around this era, and I mean 2009-2010, there was quite a lot of focus on settling down, marrying, and having kids in a lot of the media we consumed. The most popular rom-coms that came around this time were mainly focused on that, and even the most revolutionary show of this era, Sex and the City, had quite a conventional ending for all its characters, since all of them ended up settling down and in serious relationships. And despite the fact that Friends had quite a similar ending with Chandler and Monica becoming a couple, as well as Ross and Rachel did right at the end of the show, I think for Phoebe it does make a lot of sense that she ended up married and wanting to have a boring but stable life. More sense than Miranda's ending in Sex and the City for sure.
I'm a lost cause. Go on without me. Save yourself. No.
Phoebe, as we mentioned before, had quite a chaotic life growing up and zero conception of what's considered normal. And that brought her some benefits despite of it, because the way she rose above it is what makes her so special. But at the same time, she's allowed to long for a life she never had. And now she has the chance to build it with someone who accepts her fully. So in that sense, it's not like she's going to become the typical suburban mom and completely erase her essence. If anything, she's going to inject her own character and personality to an environment that it's usually associated with conformity. The relationship she entered at the end of the show is actually perfectly tailored for her, and it found her first because she was proud to be herself and open enough to get to know new things, but not enough to be completely molded by them. And second, and the most important, it's because she also had this radical acceptance from her family. Phoebe was eccentric, odd, and inconvenient to be around at times, but her friends never made her feel like she should have to act differently or shame her for being those things. And although it's kind of controversial the way the writers and she herself treats the tragedy she has gone through, to a certain extent it's actually a way to say that Phoebe has kind of integrated the situations and it's using them in a way that benefits her instead of letting those past experiences define her future. And I believe this is a great indication of who Phoebe is as a person, in two words that define her way of living quite well: transformative and hopeful. Phoebe is not the type of person who blinds herself from negative situations and performs to always be okay no matter what. She's neither the kind of person that excuses every poor decision or setback in life just because she had it rough. I've always found interesting that Phoebe, being the one who has had the toughest life and a difficult upbringing, is the one who has more trust in life and faith that everything is going to be okay. There are rare occasions where she might feel bummed out or saddened by some situations that happen to her, but even if she does, she bounces back quickly and looks for an upside for every difficult situation she might have lived, precisely because she's the living example that life does get better, and even if you're living through hell, doesn't mean that you're going to spend the rest of your life in it. The rest of her friends' concerns are mainly about being plagued by indecision, insecurity, their past pains, and not knowing how bad it can be if something doesn't happen for them. In Phoebe's case, her rough stars has shielded her from this insecurity and has made her develop an armor of genuine self-love and appreciation for life to make her not care about what others think of her or about what's going to happen tomorrow, because she's too focused living in the present to be concerned about anything else.
Why do you care? Because they're people. But people that you don't know and will never see again.
She has gone through hell in every possible way, and the fact that she uses her past experiences to protect and support herself and her loved ones while at the same time not shying away from life just comes to show you that You may not be able to change what happened to you, but you can definitely decide how it's going to affect you moving forward. Take a look at Ursula, for example, Phoebe's twin sister who's very similar to her physically but couldn't be more different personality-wise. Although Ursula and Phoebe share the same traumas, Ursula is absent-minded and selfish, to the point of using everyone and everything around her for her own benefit. So it's safe to say that they both had a completely different approach to their own pain and how it was going to direct their lives in the future. And this only comes to show that Phoebe not only chose differently based in the faith she had in herself and in the world, but she also got everything she ever wanted and even more because of it. Not only she built a family with her current friend group and Mike, but she did it in every possible way she had. She did it with her street friends, with the blood family that she was looking for, and of course the one that she helped create, and even to the point of adopting rat babies to keep them together as a family. Phoebe might have grown up with a broken family, but her open heart, her disposition to help, and her loyalty to herself and to those she loves have made her a crucial part of not only her friend family, but also of many others, and most importantly, her own.
I would like to get to know you. Yeah, well, everybody does. Really cool person.
In shows like this, there's always a formula around the people we're watching. Who's the pretty one? Who's the smart one? Who's the funny one? And when you think about it, it's really difficult to place Phoebe in one of these ideas. It's so difficult that some members of the audience may deem her unnecessary to make the plot move. But Phoebe's presence in the friend group and in media in general may be more crucial than we believe. She's a great TV example that there's laughter beyond pain. There are so many examples in media that focus on the victims that don't survive their trauma, leaving them forever stuck with the victim label. And there are some that do, but their story overly focuses on what happened to them instead of who they are at heart, or at least who they have become despite of it. And Phoebe is not just a victim of trauma. She's a person with desires, hopes, dreams, and a quite audacious personality that has been able to redefine what happened to her into something greater and that has a different meaning to her. Of course, Phoebe is a survivor, but she's not surviving through life. She's actually living it. We need more examples in media of people who are not entirely defined by their trauma, but people who are capable of transforming it and living normal, fulfilling lives in spite of it. Of course, we have to listen to the stories of people who have dealt with hardships and how that has shaped them. But we need to see the brighter side as well. To know that despite the fact that we are watching the story of a fictional character who has suffered, achieving this sort of fulfillment is also possible for all of us, no matter what we have gone through. And that no matter if we have gone through the darkest past, because there can always be a brighter future awaiting us.
This is madness. It's madness, I tell you, for the love of God, Monica, don't do it! Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye-bye!